Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're going to be previewing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Week 10 matchup versus the Carolina Panthers. Essentially, we're going to be talking about some of the storylines that will be going on between both teams heading into this game. So let's get started with the first storyline I want to mention, which involves the Buccaneers, which is, can the Bucs rebound? That's the big question, right? Everybody, and I mean everybody, has been so critical of the coaching staff this past week, the offensive line this past week, and other aspects of the team due to the performance that we saw versus the Saints. It has raised a lot of alarms, and some I think are justified in certain situations, and some I think are not. But now the big question moving forward into this game is, can the Bucs rebound? We have seen the Buccaneers do this before, where the past couple of times when they've lost a game, they've gone on a 3-game winning streak. When they lost in week 1, they won their next 3 games. When they lost their next game versus the Bears, they won their next 3 games, and then they just lost to the Saints. So technically, if consistency and patterns are a thing, they should win their next 3 games. Possibly. We'll have to wait and see. But that is, again, the biggest question is, can the Bucs rebound? It was a very frustrating loss, right? Not just for the fans, but I'm sure especially for the players and coaches, because they were completely outclassed. Like, that is just what it is, point blank. They were outclassed from top to bottom in that game versus the Saints. And I'm sure a lot of guys on that team are pissed off. Tom Brady being, probably one of the top guys and being one of the angriest guys. So I'm curious to see how this team can bounce back from the coaching staff all the way down to the, players, the lowest players on the depth chart, because it's going to be a whole team effort to bounce back from a thing like this. Just getting mad isn't going to mean that you're going to come back and win a game. You've got to actually go out there and execute a game plan and show that you are able to come back from a frustrating win like that. Not necessarily in like an angry way, but in a way of, being able to execute your game plan. So that is going to be the thing that I'm most interested in seeing is, can the Buccaneers bounce back from just what was an extremely frustrating loss on so many levels versus the Saints. The next thing I want to mention is, again, I've been mentioning this all week, is that Christian McCaffrey is out for this upcoming game versus the Carolina Panthers. And I've already talked about how I think Mike Davis is a very serviceable running back. I think that he could be a solid fringe starter and maybe even a full starter for an NFL team coming up this offseason. I think Mike Davis is making himself a good chunk of money for this upcoming offseason, even if the cap space is going to be pretty weird. But regardless, he's no Christian McCaffrey, and not many people are. I've talked about this a lot. I think that probably the 2 best running backs in the NFL when they're fully healthy is Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, in 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it, those are the 2 best guys because they can do everything. I mean, they're basically they're the perfect example of an all-around running back. They are the 2 of the best runners in the NFL, but they're also basically wide receivers. That's how good they are as receiving backs. Like, it's absolutely insane. I think you may even throw Alvin Kamara up there as well, although he doesn't necessarily get as much time as a runner. He's just more of a receiving guy. They like to give Latavius Murray a ton of handoffs, but the point is that McCaffrey is the heart and soul of that offense for that Panthers team, as he should be, and he's dealing with his second injury this year, which is super unfortunate, but in the case of this game, I mentioned it earlier this week, that is a huge headache now gone for this Buccaneers offense. So we will see how the Panthers adjust. We did see Mike Davis a little bit towards the end of week 2 against the Buccaneers, and I thought he did a pretty decent job, especially as a receiving back. So we'll see. I like Mike Davis, but again, he really doesn't compare to Christian McCaffrey. That is an insane loss for this offense, who they've already been, having to play games without him for most of the season. They are now without him yet again. It sucks for the Panthers, point blank. The next thing worth mentioning is, can the Bucs protect Tom Brady? Now, I just mentioned this in the Keys to Victory video, last night, but I do want to mention it again here. Protecting Tom Brady is the key. And I've mentioned that we have seen, I want to say, 5 good games from this offensive line and 4 bad games, which lends more to the idea of more inconsistency than consistency, right? 5 good games is good, but for the 5 good games they have are pretty good games, but the 4 bad games they have, especially in certain parts of the offensive line, were pretty bad. So we need to figure out what the consistency is with this team. We need to figure out what this offensive line is going to be for the remainder of the season. I've already given you guys my thoughts on some of these offensive linemen. I always do. My expectations for, let's say a certain left tackle on this team is not very high anymore, and it won't be because nothing is going to change in my opinion. But for the rest of the offensive line, let's see what they can do to kind of get back to that form that we've seen in those 5 games where they were playing some good football. And yes, credit to our left tackle as well. Let's see if he can get back to that form that we've seen in those 5 games when he was playing some good football. So we'll see which offensive line shows up in this game. If it's the bad offensive line, it's going to be another long day. I mean, point blank. Getting Ali Marpet back is going to be huge. That is without a shadow of a doubt. He's playing like one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the NFL right now. So that will help. But again, we will see which offensive line shows up on Sunday. I'm confident that it will be the good offensive line, but we'll just have to wait and see. Shout out to Tristan Wirfs and Ali Marpet and Ryan Jensen. Those 3 guys are amazing. Alex Kappa does a pretty decent job as well. And now we're moving on to the next topic, which is Byron Leftwich bad play calling. And I'm not saying that as a statement, I'm saying that as a question, because I've been asking you guys all week your thoughts on Byron Leftwich, and you guys have been letting me know, your thoughts on Byron Leftwich, how you feel how you feel he's doing as a coordinator, and I appreciate that feedback because it really does help me be able to create better more thought out content with you guys. You guys show me things where I go, well, I didn't think about that. Let me go back and look and see what you guys are talking about. So I really do appreciate your guys' thoughts and opinions because it really helps me look at things from different perspectives. So I am very grateful for that. And really what I've been seeing from a lot of you guys is in terms of what you don't like about Byron Leftwich is how he does with situational play calling and how he does in terms of calling running plays. That's kind of been the 2 biggest things I've been seeing with problems with Byron Leftwich. And if you have other things that you like or dislike about Byron Leftwich, let me know. But again, it is fair to say, and I've been mentioning this again all week, it is fair to give criticism to Byron Leftwich. It's fair to put that microscope on him because, quite frankly, there's been a couple of times this year where he has been completely outclassed and the offense has not been disciplined. So some of that, in fact, a good chunk of that can fall on the coaching sometimes, depending on certain situations. And I feel like that, really the 2 games against the Saints this year, I mean, they were outclassed. I mean, they were outcoached. That's just flat out. So I'm curious to see how we see Byron Leftwich perform in these upcoming games as offensive coordinator. I do want to remind everybody that at the end of the day, the Bucs are 6-3, and we have seen this offense put up some good points and make some really big plays, and that is Byron Leftwich calling those plays as well. So there is, a lot of give and take in terms of the Byron Leftwich situation and things like that. But I do appreciate your guys' feedback, and you've given me a lot of things to pay more attention to here in future games regarding Byron Leftwich and how he performs as a offensive coordinator. So I thank you guys for that. But that is another question coming into this game: is how is Byron Leftwich going to perform? How is he going to rebound from the most latest Saints game debacle? But finally, guys, the last thing I'm going to mention here is that the Carolina Panthers have been playing a lot of close games. They're currently on a 4-game losing streak. They're 3-6. But this team is a lot better than their record indicates. I really can't stress that enough. In the last 4 games, all of them, every single one of those games that they lost were 1-score games. They only lost by 1 score, which is really huge. I mean, they reminded me a lot of the, Chargers over there in the AFC. Not necessarily to that degree, because the Chargers have just had some very upsetting losses. I'd hate to be a Chargers YouTuber. I would want to cry. But the Panthers, they fight in every single game. They're not really getting blown out this year, and you really can't count them out of a game, like point blank. And I'm not going to go say some crazy things like, this team's ready, this team has a chance to make the playoffs and things like that, because they're 3-6. They probably don't have a chance to make the playoffs, but I really think that they're an underrated team that can really play with the best of them. They almost beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are one of the best, if not the best team in the entire NFL, maybe besides the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. So, I mean, this Panthers team's no joke. I really don't think that this would be an easy game under any circumstances. I think that Teddy Bridgewater is a very underrated quarterback. I've already talked about Mike Davis and the wide receiver core. I think they're great as well. Some of the holes that I see on this team, though, kind of involve their offensive line and some of their pieces in that defensive secondary, and that just kind of has to do with a youth thing where they just have a lot of young guys that are developing. So I still wouldn't take this Panthers team lightly. Any team can beat any team at the end of the day in the NFL. We all have to remember that. But this should be a fun game. I think these teams match up very well against each other, and it should be a very competitive, very fun game. But yeah, the Panthers, their record is 3-6, but you really shouldn't take that record at face value because they are a lot better than their record indicates. Even though they're on a 4-game losing streak. So, guys, that's really it, talking about all of these storylines coming into this game. Let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comment section below, and what are some other things that you guys are going to be paying attention to coming into this upcoming game versus the Panthers? Give me your thoughts. But, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.